After years of lying in limbo, the Middle Belt geopolitical zone last Friday rose up to make a claim for political relevance when it threw up 4 persons to represent the interest of the zone in the forthcoming presidential election. By Emmanuel Ezekon, political editor, former member of the House of Representatives and Director of Communications of the Middle Belt Forum, MBF, Mr. Jonathan Osaki was yesterday lamenting the fate of the region which had in the past been a bedrock for Northern solidarity and, to wit, the North's engagement with the rest of the nation. In fact, there is no time that the Middle Belt has been left out in the cold light now, he said in response to a question on the reward the region has gotten for its near-solid vote for President Muhammadu Buhari in the 2015 presidential election. All but Plateau and Taraba states voted almost overwhelmingly for Buhari in that historic election. Perhaps it was arising from that the regional leaders last Friday sat down to appraise the about a dozen presidential aspirants that have emerged from the region for the 2019 general elections. At the end of the deliberations, the group picked 4 men who the leaders said would be marketed to other geopolitical zones for consideration. The 4 men who were adopted by the leaders to represent the interest of the zone at the meeting in Abuja were Senator Jonah Jang, Mr. Benga Olorpo Hashim, Dr. Obadiah Malafia and Professor Jerry Garner. Though not a geopolitical zone, the Middle Belt region straddles across 13 of the country's 19 northern states from the northwest through the north-central to the northeast geopolitical zones. In some states like Kebbi, Kaduna and Borno, however, only southern parts of the states are fittingly reported as Middle Belt. The states in the region include Kwara, Kogi, Niger, FCT, Benue, Plateau, Adamawa, Borno, South Bauchi, South Kaduna, Kebbi, Taraba, and Nasarawa. The 4 men were adopted following a meeting by some of the Middle Belt region's leading personalities in Abuja. Meeting chaired by NADECO activist, Air Commodore Dan Suleiman, had some of the region's more leading personalities present at the meeting. Present at the meeting were former Adjutant General of the Nigerian Army, Major General Zamani Lekwat, former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Shaya Bomai, former Governor of Old Gongola State, Mr. Wilberforce Juta, former Governor of Old Kwara State, Chief Cornelius Adebayo, Mr. Sam Adamagbi, and Chief John Odakan. The intervention of the regional leaders follows years of limbo when the interests of the region were largely relegated as a result of apathy, infighting, and political intrigues. The Middle Belt Forum, MBF, which had articulated the interests of the region, was also dogged by the same factors, especially after the penultimate chairman of the group, Professor Jerry Garner, was reported to have deliberately toned down his profile ahead of the 2019 presidential contest. Indeed, Garner handed over the mantle of leadership of the MBF to Dr. Balatakaya, who, however, passed on in early June, putting the fate of the region into question. Even more, the reconstitution of the leadership of the forum with Mrs. Orlan Talon, a prominent pro-Buhari person as the woman leader, did not help matters, as some felt that it was an erosion of the MBF's stance on political neutrality. Even more, the region has been challenged by a crisis of confidence arising from the spate of insecurity around the region, notably in Taraba, Benue and Plateau states. The spate of killings and perceptions of marginalization despite its sizable contributions to the emergence of President Muhammadu Buhari had lately forced the group to seek political collaboration with other geopolitical blocs, notably the 3 southern regional blocs, Onis, Afenifere and the South-South. Regional leaders have since the beginning of the year held different strategic meetings with the southern leaders in Enugu and Lagos towards coming out with a common focus ahead of the 2019 presidential election. The decision to come up with 4 of its own as possible presidential candidates is believed to be the group's assertion of its political weight. The four persons are to be presented for acceptability to other geopolitical zones in the country by the Middle Belt leaders. The intervention of the Middle Belt leaders in the 2019 political permutation is expected to raise the bar given the significant influence of the region in Nigeria's presidential elections. Middle Belters political gold mine. The region, with a notable exception of Plateau and Taraba, voted almost overwhelmingly for the All Progressives Congress (APC) and its presidential candidate in the 2015 presidential election. Besides the reported reasons of perceived, other regions of the country voted against Drive. Goodluck Jonathan. The Middle Belt was particularly bitter that he took the region for granted by always trying to mollify the House of Fulani at the cost of the Middle Belters. Asked yesterday of the zone's assessment of the zone's reward for its vote for Buhari in 2015, Asaki said, "He is not even trying to compensate the Middle Belt, he is trying to kill the Middle Belt. It is not even like compensation, because there is nothing like compensation, he is trying to kill the Middle Belt. In every way possible, the Middle Belt is not protected, there is a continuous invasion of Middle Belt communities and foreigners are taking over the communities and nothing is being done to resettle them, and so, they cannot go to the farms, so hunger is looming in the land. This is even compounded by the fact that the Middle Belt is the undisputed food basket of the nation. Benue is a landmark. One of the key indices that have characterized presidential elections in the country is the exceptional position of Benue in siding with all winning presidential candidates since the advent of presidential democracy in 1979. Benue backed Shehu Shagari in 1979, 1983, MKO Abiola in 1993, Olusegun Obasanjo in 1999, 2003, Umaru Yar'Adua in 2007, Goodluck Jonathan in 2011 and Muhammadu Buhari in 2015.